Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Life is Strange. So we finished the game. I will eventually probably go play offline and try to get the couple of achievements using a walkthrough, because the dark room confrontation takes really long and the nightmare section takes even longer. That section alone was nearly 45 minutes and could have been eliminated completely. That could have been DLC. That could have been a sequel episode. But there is this director's commentary. Let's hear what the directors have to say about their creation of their game. I've been very critical of the story here. I don't think the directors really wrote what they knew, being what I would guess is mid-30s males writing an 18-year-old girl in Oregon, and they're in Canada, and they called a truck an SUV once, and just things like that just isn't the right story for them, and they didn't have enough people.
It was really great to see so many
helping
fan arts,
them.
so many letters, so many fiction,
cosplays.
The reaction were fantastic, way beyond our
So yeah,
expectations.
look at these guys.
A huge community.
They look like a bunch of
So
lumberjacks
passionate
to
fans, and it's
maybe
great.
play to a stereotype.
We started the project by making the game we wanted to make for ourselves, but at the end it's really making a game for the players, because it's that's what's important.
So welcome to the dev commentary of Life is Strange. We're really happy to be there and talk about.
Of course,
the
I
game.
didn't want to look at this
Thank
until
you for watching.
I'd played the whole game.
I'm Raoul Barbet,
because
one
of
of the co-game
spoilers.
director of the game.
And I'm Michel Kor, the other co-game director of the game.
We are
Co-game
two game
director.
directors working on one project, so it's really interesting to work that way.
It can be hard sometimes, but I think
It's always weird when
really
games
a
have
creative process, because
live
you can
action video in
challenge
it.
each other on
It's
a lot of
it
aspects
seems like they
and find out
pretty
what is the better
consistently
solution
put a low
for
quality
the
bit
best
rate
If
on it on
only
their
Michel
film.
or Raoul was directing the game would have been really different. They both know.
Well, the
how
game
to
did
make
feel
the
like there
game,
was
like,
two
the
stories, so
story
maybe if
there.
they had just one director, that would have been a more consistent vision.
Contact with the teams.
I'm more from the audiovisual and movie scene, so I was in charge of all the cameras with the camera team. I work a lot with the sound design team also, with the music.
And myself, since I'm from an illustration background, my specialties were more on the art direction, and later for this game I'm starting to work way more with the narrative team and the voice recording sessions.
It was cool because they have the similar vision for the game, so we didn't have
Similar, not the same.
Actually, Michel and Raoul are in the game when you think about it, because there are two game directors, so we have a contraction which is Michel. But if you put it the other way around, it's Raoul and Michel, so it's Rachel. I'm pretty sure they did it on purpose.
The idea behind the game was because both of us worked on Remember Me, and there was some sequences in this game called Memory Remixes, and one of the founders, Hervé Bonin, asked this small core team to think about a game with this kind of mechanism. Very quickly came the episodic adventure game, because we wanted really to do something like that.
There is really a lot of new ways to interact.
Still probably not worth playing Remember Me.
Format, you have to make a lot of choice for episode 1, because you won't be able to change after. A lot of assets have to be there in episode 1. So the menu is one of those assets.
It was interesting because there was a lot of variations. We did a lot of tries of what we wanted to show in this menu.
Again, I'll get into
the
my
idea
normal
was
rant
really
of
to
how
basically show
episodic
the most
games are
important
terrible
locations of the game.
ideas and
we can
you-
see the Blackwell Academy.
bad for the development of
Try to see the
games,
lighthouse,
bad for
you can
the
see the
industry,
tower
bad
of
for
Arcadia
selling
Bay. We were really
games.
trying to
The
do
worst
sense of
aspects combined
location
of
and just show,
pre-ordering and buying
like, the
DLC
game world.
combined.
We really wanted to make the player feel
because
that
everything,
all area are connected.
when you buy episode 1 of an episodic game, you're effectively pre-ordering the game and early access version of the game, which is even worse, and then you have to buy DLC for every other episode, like 2 through 5.
Soft music, it was just when you start the game, you should feel quite at peace and comfortable.
They were way too into the music here, and it didn't actually play a big part in the story.
For episode 4, you have the beach whaled. That's this kind of details we wanted to just add with the variation.
Where's
of
the beach
menu.
whale?
The
I
game
don't
takes
see
place
it.
in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest, in the United States. When I went back there on vacations, I've seen a lot of places that really looks like what we did in the game. So I guess it was a really big job of references to be sure that everything was correct. But it's also something that's really exciting about making a game, that you have to look at.
It's kind of
everything,
strange
to
that
reproduce
Canadian
reality, and with, of course,
video
our
game makers
lens,
very rarely make any
stylish
games
and
about Canadians
we really wanted this to feel like
or things happening
being
in
Oregon.
Canada.
Sometimes people ask us if we choose to have a game in the United States for marketing, for selling the game. We knew that we were fans of like TV shows like Twin Peaks or X-Files.
Yeah,
they have those trees.
that's
and
great,
Pacific
but
Northwest
that
feeling.
really had
I
nothing
think they are great
to do with
example
this
of
game.
a small community thinking that everybody know each other and everybody is happy, but when you put something inside this community, it could be something supernatural. You discover a lot more.
And it's really a way to shift things around and to bring.
I would
some
argue
interesting
that
variations on
there
on
was too many
and
characters
I
in
think
this
in the end,
game,
Life is Strange is really
so the community
again, a
wasn't
story
small
about the characters,
enough.
about their lives.
There's
It's not a story about the sci-fi.
many
the
of
sci-fi
the
element
students
of
could
it.
have been merged
For
down into
us, they were
just
here
one
to
or two.
make things interesting.
Like Victoria's followers, in particular, could have been merged all into Victoria. So those 3 girls alone.
Okay, so let's play the game and
Yeah, let's play Life is Strange.
So
This
we'll
is a very
here
beginning
we're
of the
doing a
game.
let's play
I
of a
think
let's
this is
play.
one of the very difficult sequence of the beginning of the production, because this is the first time the player will see what the game looks like and will be inside the story. So we got a lot of discussion about this one. and a lot
Oddly,
of
this is
discussion
not
about
really
the shots,
representative of the
how
game
they're
at
going
all.
to
You don't
present
have weather
Max
effects.
character.
You don't really
The
walk
important, as this is
from,
the game, is the player to know where they have to go and the objective of
point
the-
A to point B
of
that
each
much.
scene.
You more
This is
wander
the link
around
to the end of the
small
game,
open
of course,
areas,
and it's
and
also
you
to
do
close
several
the
actions that
beginning
don't
with this
happen
scene,
during this
and when you know
sequence.
the end of the game was something we really wanted to have, so we can see all the FX, and we got one FX artist, very talented, Thomas. Here you can see a lot of his work,
love the
all the
tornado.
particles, the tornado.
we took a lot of time to work on this tornado, because when you're working on an episode,
It is a
game,
good-looking
it's important to
hurricane.
still hook the player from episode 1. So that's the kind of discussion we had about the rhythm, to when should
Or
we put
decent
something
looking,
that
at
has
least.
a bit more
It
impact,
does
that
sometimes
feels
look
something
like
that shows
some of the
bigger,
clouds are
something
spinning the
bigger.
wrong direction
So
now.
this introduction was a bit like that. We wanted in Life is Strange. the
But you
player
didn't
to
need
always know what
the
Max is knowing, and
tornado.
To just be with
You
her.
could have just
At
had
this
her
moment,
walk
Max
up
doesn't
to the
know what she is, and
lighthouse
the player doesn't know
and look at the city of Arcadia Bay and have it be on fire. And then maybe in a different timeline, you look from the lighthouse and you see that the whole city's been exploded. Or you look again and you see it's all been flooded. More something that might make more sense than the giant tornado that's bigger than the entire city. The scale is hugely off, I suppose, if you think about that too.
It was an interesting starting point creatively.
This kind of introduction is really important, because in one sequence with some shots you have to discover all the different characters, the main ones, so you will see of course Jefferson, Kate and Victoria.
And it was quite
We
hard
come
to
back to the
decide
sequence
not
way too often in
showing
the
too
game.
much, to not break the idea of the game, to not be too big compared to what the game would be after. There is a lot of themes of big ideas on the game, and of course photography is one of it, because photography is still a way to to look
too many
back to the
ideas,
past. It's linked to
none
the
of
theme
which
rewind
fleshed
and
out
time
enough.
manipulation and nostalgia.
I mean,
And that's
because
why
of the
we
big
love Max
ideas of
Caulfield.
photography, like they're talking about, they
For the player to be
failed
like
to
Max,
explain the
back
big
in his
idea
town
of
when
why is there a
don't know
giant tornado because I
everyone,
saved
but
Chloe's
you've got
life.
to respect the schedule. It's really, as a player, something great.
It seems like it's making the literal argument that because I saved Chloe's life, that butterfly flew in a different direction, and by flapping its wings, it caused the tornado.
Maybe we decided to have a
Or
private high school rather than just
by
regular
changing
high school
fate,
for,
it
of
just
course,
caused the
photography
tornado,
course, but it was
because
also to
magic.
be able to have less students because we wanted the story to be a bit more intimate. We didn't want it to be like this huge high school with so many students. Based on what the player is doing, you can really learn more about them and see that they're actually not just the stereotype and the
But see,
archetype.
even at that
You
point,
would say
there's
they are.
only about
This is
8
the
people in
perfect
this
example
room, and
how
it's
it
still
really
too
is now.
many.
Because if you
Because
look
as
closely
soon
at the
as
poster,
that
there is a
scene
mistake on it. It says,
ends,
exhibition takes place in the De Jong
everybody
Park.
except for
When
Victoria
actually
and
it's
Kate
not that.
leave.
It's not that in
So,
episode 5, it's the
You have
guys
Jefferson,
following. We
Victoria,
have a
and
really
Kate.
great community.
That's
Thanks to
3
you guys.
people
And
that
people
they
found out this
actually
mistake, and
needed
yes,
in
it is a
the
mistake. It's
room.
when episode 5 we found out that we couldn't
So
do it,
instead of
and
having
it
that
has to be
lecture,
an art gallery, so we
you
changed
could
it.
have had her wake
There was a
up,
mistake like this.
have the bell go off, and him say, "That's it for class today," and that's where you started.
We really wanted to have this feeling of being part of a whole high school.
Like,
so it means a lot
The
of
science
people,
teacher
It means bullying. It
didn't
means,
really
difficulties
need
when
to be in the
you're a
game.
teenager in this kind of world.
Showing the different cliques and different kind of teenager.
I think a lot of players love this introduction. The use of music here is really important. Is as Max feels insecure in this atmosphere, we wanted her to isolate. The music is a great way of isolate yourself when you just want to be on your own. And so since the beginning of the game, we were working.
So yeah, they try to
listen
do
tracks,
clicks. They
listen
try to
music,
do
we-
the high
we
school
test-
feeling, but
we
again,
testing on prototypes
I
and
don't think
things.
these guys
We
went
put
to
some
a
license
United
tracks
States
from
or an
artists
Oregon
we
high
love.
school.
Senators one of them. And when we
You
asked,
just have to look at
Jonathan
some of the
Morin, who is
dress
lead, of
and
Senators,
clothing that
responsible
these
to
people
use
are
his
wearing,
music,
and
he's a gamer, so it
they
was
certainly
really happy
haven't
to
been to a high
have
school
this new experience, and for us
in
it's
the
just
past
incredible to
decade
work
or
with
two.
him. And this quite of
So
editing is
they're
really,
kind of
really
just
difficult to do because you
writing from their
choose
own
the
memories,
important, moment in a song
their
and
own
choose
experiences,
the right images.
which is
Because our
outdated
writer,
and not
Jean-Luc,
quite right.
has written many scenes built around music. The edit is based on the music. It's not
So-
the other way.
The music is really important in the game. It
Their
explains a
obsession
lot
with
about the
music
characters, because the
didn't
choice
need to
of
be
the
here.
music, the choice of the
I
artist
imagine
means a
their
lot. For
their
example,
budget
Chloe
was
won't listen to the
3
same
or 4
artist as
times
Max.
higher
For the anecdote, for
in
this,
licensing music
guitar
than it
part,
should have
we
been.
asked the lead singer of
And
Matters to
even at
take
that,
his guitar and
there's
play
not
on
really
top
a
of
recognizable
Gonzalez song
song.
in a clumsy way
If
to
I heard
show
any of
that
the
he
songs
liked
in
Max
this
playing guitar.
game, and one of those was the Life is Strange main theme, if I heard it on the radio, I would know it's from a video game. I wouldn't recognize it at all. Moving on to intentions.
Okay, so the objective of this scene was to go into the bathroom.
So it seems like they
Here
mostly just
great,
broke up
song
a director's
of,
commentary of episode
Sebastian
1,
Violi,
or the first
has
part of
worked a lot
episode
on
1.
This kind of effects when you take out your earplug, you can hear more the ambience. And this kind of art is done by
And the
our main
graffiti.
concept artist. We got like 4 concept artists working on the game. With
Like,
Edouard.
Why
did a
so
lot
much
of
graffiti?
artwork
Was the
and,
one
concept artist.
You
So
would have
in the beginning we do
helped the games a
documentation,
lot
like
by
we do
taking all the graffiti out
from all those
and all the
pictures
posters
from the internet.
and all the
Everyone
stupid
maybe
things
has
that
things to
got in the way of
tell the
actually
story,
telling the main
what they-
story.
Who they are, what they
Uh,
do.
Way
And
too much
just
effort
for
was
the
spent
scene, even
having
for the, for the
inconsequential
movie, when it's still the reason of the
elements
game,
added
so we wanted this scene in the bathroom to have a really
that could have been
cold
spent
and
on
harsher
important
and
things.
more contrasty lighting to be different from the the soft and warm lighting from the art class before.
Seeing this scene,
Wouldn't it be cool if there was like a secret thing in the mirror in that bathroom in the first scene?
In fact, I don't know if you have tried
Like a
tear apart
Easter
Polaroid,
egg,
but
but
it's quite impossible.
Yeah, you can. We tried it. We can't.
If there were those kind of hints in this
it's
game,
a kind of,
impossible to tear it like
I didn't see
But
any of
of
them.
course, there is a lot of symbolic behind this, and so we decided to keep it, even if it's non-realistic. Maybe it's a bad Polaroid quality, and we can do it. So. You
Oh,
can see the butterfly
you
coming
can't
from the
rip
window.
Polaroids
There's a
in
lot of,
half,
symbol
not without
behind this.
scissors.
The butterfly, of course, with all the butterfly effect thing, and the fact that Chloe has got
some butterfly
There's a
effect
movie
too,
called The Butterfly
the color of
Effect,
her hair,
and there
yeah,
was a
the color of
sequel,
the
both
butterfly.
of which are
really something we wanted.
very
to
awful
hear the
movies.
blue butterfly is really important, and of course at the end of the
Maybe
game
they'll
it's
make a
one sort of
remake
One
or
of the fans'
by
favorite,
a
and
different movie
of
by the
course
same
character we
name.
really love Chloe.
And
She's
it's
she's one of
too
the
good of a
most
name,
important character, because
frankly,
at the
for
end,
such a
the
bad
choice
movie.
is about her. It was really important to create this character.
Yeah,
as
this
well,
game should have
so
just
the
been
player
called
would
Butterfly,
learn to
or
care
the
more
Butterfly
and more about
Effect.
her. But
Like
we
Blue
wanted her to be
Butterfly.
not that nice at
Which
the beginning.
Chloe here
So
is a
when she's
blue
evolving,
butterfly.
during the
And a lot of the
and
scenes
she's
I had
getting
seen of
nicer
this
to
game,
Max,
I
people
thought
would
Chloe was the
care
main
even more about
character.
her
She
because she
stands
changed,
out
and she
so
likes
much
the fact
more
that
than
she changed.
Max does.
If she was the nicest person from the beginning, it wouldn't be, I think, as effective that her going forward and changing toward Max.
Sometimes some players.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think
during the first episode,
Chloe
and I
was
think it's
hard to
not a
relate to
bad thing
by
because,
being a
you can-
jerk at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, dislike a lot of things.
This
about her
isn't a
personality,
book or
and
something
after in
that
episode 3
you
and of course at the
really
beginning of episode
are
4,
expected to be that
there
committed
was really
to.
something,
I needed to like
more to
Chloe
this
from the
character, and,
beginning,
I think it's like
and I
having
didn't.
in real life with a friend. There is always some things.
And thus, I really had no problem
The
killing her at
relation
least
Max and Chloe
2
talked about
times,
that,
if
and I
not
think it's really
more,
interesting to
in the
see
game.
how the player will learn to like more and more Chloe, and
I think it was one of the biggest challenge of the writing process to.
I
because
guess
we
it
have
always
5
was
episodes,
3
we have
bullets.
a limited amount of time, and we need to find the good beats and the good pacing to make those characters evolve.
Oh
It's a
no,
really
you don't
intimate
have
story,
any good
and
pacing.
It's mostly just centered on.
So
just
this may be the
moments,
voice
all of
actress
the
here
major
that
choices that you
is
make in the
on
game are
strike
emotional.
and
The
isn't
heart
going to
of
be
it
in
is
the
the relationship
prequel
between Max
before
and
the
Chloe.
storm.
It gets really dark and things get really hard for Chloe and really emotional.
In the game, one of our
Yeah, there's way more
goal
acting
was
required
also to
on
be able to talk
Chloe
about real life
as a
issues,
voice
about
actress than
some social
Max,
scenes
really.
and difficult themes that can be experienced in real life. I mean, it's different to other games where there are bigger issues like a situation of life or death or war or stuff like that. And in this game, we wanted really to focus on more human issues on a smaller level.
The mood of the game.
Well, they
and
failed
the
at that,
themes,
considering I just
of the
destroyed
game.
all of Arcadia
It's-
Bay.
The themes that we tackle in the game are not something that you see often in other games. We try to be made.
I'm noticing as I'm listening to these director's commentaries, I'm kind of
brutal about it.
getting more and more bitter on this game.
Domestic violence,
It's-
family issues.
so talk about drugs.
I'm
and
rather
drugs and,
disappointed with this game.
depression. It's part of a reality, and I think
because
it was really important for us.
I
to not
think it
avoid
could
that.
have been a
And I
lot
think
better.
It's a great,
It's not
video
just a
game is also
cheap
great media to talk about that,
Call of
because
Duty
as a
ripoff.
player,
It's not
you
just
really
a
involve, maybe
2D
more than
platformer
just
with
looking
8-bit
at the
graphics.
movie or
It's not
reading a book. You
some
will be really
asset
part
flip
and
on
actor
Steam.
of
This
this
game
experience.
We're on the
could have
trails,
been
it's quite
a
interesting
really,
to
really
show
great
the proof of
game
the scenes, the intense scenes we have, and how we deal with them. And
if
in
it
the
was
early
just
discussions,
done
we
better.
were relieved to see that they didn't want to change anything. They just wanted to make sure that we deal properly with the scenes of themes. And
I bet
this is
Square
exactly
Enix
what
didn't
was,
care one bit about
what
this
were our
game.
intentions, so
I bet they just said, come under budget and we'll sell it.
It's again a key scene for
And
episode 1. It's the first time.
Square
we see
Enix is
Nathan
weird
and
because
Chloe. First scene with the
they're
character.
they're
is
really only focused
important.
on Final
Got a lot of
Fantasy
of information
And
to
I
give to
think
the
Kingdom
player.
Hearts
we needed to
too.
show that Nathan
Yeah, may have
was
that.
quite a troubled child, a teenager, I mean. So this is him talking to himself at the beginning. We had to fine tune and to find the good words to use. Then we see Chloe for the first time. We have to show what's her character. So she's direct and a bit pushy to Nathan. We need still to understand what's happening. So they're talking about money, about drugs. We had to find the right hints to give to explain things. So we don't want to lose the player.
Which one was I on? Was I on intentions or matter of choice? I may hit back here.
Prescott is a punk ass who begs like a little girl and talks to himself.
You don't know who the fuck I am or who you're messing around with.
Where'd you get that? What are you doing? Come on, put that thing down.
Don't ever tell me what to do. I'm
So,
sick of people
I assume
trying to
Jefferson
control me.
gave the
You are
gun
going
to
get in hella more
Nathan.
trouble for this than drugs.
This is the starting point of Max discovering that she has this weird power, because basically this adrenaline rush and looking at Chloe getting shot, that's how she can trigger that for the first time, and she don't know really why, but that's the seriousness of the situation. Then you'll go back in the art class. So we really
And
tried
so
with
she
this scene to
rewinds
show
the
deja
first
vu
time
feeling,
all the
so
way
the
back
editing and the shots were
to
there
the
to
this
give
room,
weird feeling to
which
the player that, okay, I'm
was
living that again and
unnecessary.
again, looking at the different moments that the player saw the first time in this scene.
So yeah, for the
And
editing
it was
of this,
unnecessary to break
sequence,
the
we wanted to
camera
keep
and
the
then
same
undo
elements,
that.
but not necessarily the same shot. You can see that first three shots are the same, I think, and after we begin to change a little the point of view, so you understand that there are the same events going on, but just seeing from a different point of view. And
I think, to be perfectly honest, we don't have a good explanation for why she's going back to the art class, because we needed it
I've
for...
got one, but I will never tell you.
I don't think it's a mistake, and because we also needed to explain to the player so the player can learn how things are working, and it's quite hard to do. So we took this freedom to have Max go back to the art class, which, even if it's a bit contradictory with how her power works after that, we are using this to explore more of Max's personality, of the characters, and because that's the way we created the character. Max, as we've seen that with what she's thinking, she has a lot of insecurity, she has issues to go forward in her life, to take decisions, and now she has this ability to not going forward.
That might be a reason why I don't relate to her very much. Is
an interesting storytelling device to
at my point,
question,
at this point in my life, I don't have that many insecurities or question, and I don't question my decisions that much.
Really interesting issues.
I
think Max,
right or wrong, move forward boldly and stupidly when I make a decision.
Power and without this sci-fi element, so it puts the player in a very interesting position, because she will ask himself why he's doing some interaction. He can undo the interaction and try something else, but also Max,
But you
by doing
can't
this,
undo
ask herself,
half of the choices
am
in
I
this
doing
game.
the right, decision?
And every time you do undo your choice in the game, you are punished by having to skip forward, skip back, try to go back into your actions. It's never a smooth thing where I select the dialogue choice, get a response, and can just rewind the conversation back to that dialogue choice. It's have a entire conversation, get those 5 conversation dialogue choices locked in, then rewind the whole conversation, then skip forward to the first dialogue choice, try a different dialogue choice, then skip forward once you see that new response to the next dialogue choice, and then for the 3 or 4 different options and dialogues, sometimes you're potentially playing the same conversation over.
I think this is what we wanted to do also
3 times in total on average. In some scenarios it was a lot more than that, because you had to figure out the right paths, and a lot of wrong paths ended up in failures.
Can I actually reverse time?
So and so that's basically that the first time the player will actively rewind. So we have Max thinking that okay, I just got back in time. I'm in the art class, and so that's why we made her break her camera, because we needed to have an element that the player will see that we will rewind. So we can
We didn't
explain
need
how to
this
rewind.
at
So
all.
Max broke her
All you
camera, and
needed
then
was
thinking,
the
okay,
scene
if
that
I
we
get-
see
if I get
many
back in
times
time,
in the
maybe
rest of the
I can try
game.
to do it again,
Is
and
after
we
Chloe
did that.
got
So that's
shot,
the first real rewind the player is actively doing.
it should just
It's
pause
okay, we don't
and
want the
say,
players to use
press
the rewind all
left
the time.
trigger
But
to
since,
rewind time.
It's important in the beginning of the game to really show to
This
really
whole
show the
element
player
is
the tools
redundant
we have,
and
it's
replaced.
important for us to have this in this scene, to have a
Like-
lot of use of the rewind, so we can really okay.
Like
I
the
know how it is
mini
now,
game
I know
over
how to decide if I
scenarios
use it or
that
not.
that are available where it just pauses time.
Please, please. I can't tell anybody. They'll think I'm crazy.
Since we are really playing the game with the point of view of Max, for her not everything is clear, so it shouldn't be clear for the player. So, but there is a lot of hints that should really guide the players to understand what's happening. We have a lot of symbolism with.
I'm also kind of confused as to why her head hurts when she tries to rewind the present, but if she looks at photos, she can go back into completely different realities.
Guiding Max at moments. I'm not sure that a lot of players noticed that, but in episode 2 actually, when you see the dough in the junkyard, it's precisely where Rachel is buried. There is this mystic feeling around
Nope,
the
didn't
town,
get that
and
because
since
I
we
didn't see the
want
dough
to
until it was over
clearly
in that
explain everything,
point.
It's part of what makes Arcadia Bay a bit different and a bit special.
Yeah, I suppose playing the game second time, that whole second section would matter. Didn't.
Prescott is a punk ass who
Nope, that's one we had already done. We're about halfway through here
So
with the
yeah, we're
dialogue,
going to
director's
play
commentary.
a bit of the junkyard scene.
Yes,
So
in
it's
episode
we love the junkyard scene because a lot of different elements, but the first one I think is the environment. I think
Way
the
too many
environment
things
artists have made
animated.
something incredible here.
For Life is Strange, we
A
really
lot
wanted
of
to have
visual
a
budget
stylized
spent
rendering.
here.
We didn't want it to be realistic, or so every texture has been.
This could have just
painted
been a
with this
meadow
impressionistic
with a
feeling.
few
And I
things
think
in it.
in the junkyard, it's really interesting because
Like,
there is so
I
many
now
details
know,
that
having played
that's
the whole
where this
game, that they kind of
simpler-
needed
simpler texture are
something like
working
a
well, because
junkyard
If this scene was
to
overly detailed with
bury
cracks
Rachel
in the
Amber,
rust and everything,
but
it
it could have just been a mostly
would
empty
become really
meadow.
noisy to look at. We did a lot
Also,
of,
you could
work
have
on the
potentially
lighting
just
effects
had
and the
Rachel
atmosphere,
Amber
so it was really important for us
buried
to capture
in
this
a
morning feeling with very
let's
cold
see,
colors in the fog,
completely
with
different
slightly
location
warm
that
sun that just
might be
brings
reused.
some soft and warm feeling to the scene.
This scene is also a good example of what we want to do in terms of environmental storytelling. We've got a lot of different objects who are there and who has their own story, and
Okay, let's
This
do
whole
Can you find 5
bottles
bottles while I find the
and
shooting range?
shooting
guns.
element.
Nice combo.
You can handle it. Now go find us 5 bottles.
this is one of the
pretty
best
please.
puzzles of the game, I
Yeah,
think.
I think it is. I think
The-
I think it's mostly the final bottle that was really hard to find, and we did a mistake on it because it was maybe too well hidden. Our goal for this was just to allow the player to push the player to visit the place while looking for those bottles, because there is a lot of interesting things to discover. Basically, the junkyard is where Chloe brought Max to try her power, but it's also where Chloe and Rachel were hanging out together before Rachel disappeared. So this place here was this small hideout for Chloe and Rachel, and we tried a lot of what we did in the whole game with environmental storytelling can be seen here, because there is a lot of everything that we really like to do to tell with environment.
Yeah, you could have
Good
just
way
had
to-
Rachel Amber buried outside
to show
the
more to the player, so it's
the
And
farmhouse,
it's also to
and then
give
you wouldn't have
rewards to
needed the
player who
junkyard at
know
all.
more about the characters
You
and
could have
the
had
story.
this hangout just be an
because
old
you can
tree
do
house
the-
in the middle
You
of
can do this whole
a
scene
meadow
without,
or forest.
looking at every details, but
there is some hidden stuff. This one is harder to find. I think that not every player find it, but and this is a big letter that Rachel wanted to write to Chloe, and maybe never gave
I
it to
didn't
her.
find
In
that.
Life is Strange, we really tried to put a lot of attentions to the details. So we have a lot of various levels of things, and if if you look around, you can find some really, really small details that are useless to the main story. But
what's funny is that I'm watching video of them playing, and even their video of them playing has the engine running at low frame rates and kind of clunky.
Things that we thought they could not notice.
In
like
fact, it looks like the game is running worse for their
right
computer
order,
than it is for
it
my
says
computer.
No fucks given, and they noticed.
I don't know about this.
Are you
Oh, is that
afraid of
what
getting in
those
trouble?
letters on her shirt
Oh,
spelled?
boo-hoo. Max is afraid. I know you can handle this, and I'm here to guide you. Make me proud, sister.
Life is Strange really is a game about choice and consequences. So we have a lot of choice you can make in the game, which will have consequences.
Honestly,
later
it just
on,
kind of
in
boils
the
down
same
to
episode and-
two
or in the
choices
other episode.
at the end.
And there is one big choice
Like,
in this scene, right? That will happen.
There's nothing
Yes,
that
the
actually
idea for
happens.
each choice is really to have not easy choice to take, even if it's not the
Because
life
it's all gonna
and
end
best
it the
choice
same
for,
way. At the end of the day,
another game, or it's more
the
everyday life
last
choices.
section, the
Important
last
to
choice of
make your own,
episode
to
5
decide
is
to live with
Chloe
it.
will
So
be
that's why
alive,
with, Max
and
Power,
you'll be able to
it's
either
of course
save
more
her or
difficult
save
because you
Arcadia
can
Bay.
try a choice. You're not sure
And that's not
if
even a
it's
good
going
choice to
rewind
give the
and
player.
you're
They
going
should have
make the other one,
made
but it's important
forced
if you
Max
want
to
continue
sacrifice
to
Chloe.
move on, you have to keep on one and live with the consequence. So this is in this choice
This
in
one is
particular.
interesting.
What do you want to do, Michel?
Um,
First one.
I don't think I would shoot a guy anyway, so I would say.
So we won't shoot.
I won't shoot.
So you can see directly some consequence. Means that you don't have gun anymore because Frank is going to take it. Chloe will be pissed off.
You can of course rewind and try the other one. But something that's really
What's interesting is the build they're playing doesn't have any prompts.
We were thinking that if you have the rewind,
Like,
does it not completely destroy the fact that you are making choices? And actually, we've seen that players are
even if they were
really,
playing with
really
mouse and
hesitating.
keyboard,
We've seen,
it would
we've
have
seen,
prompts.
we've watched some Let's Play video, and we've seen players just, even if they knew that they could go back, they were hesitating so much when they make a choice. I think it's interesting.
That's probably not a good thing. Capturing the moment next, I believe. There's not anything really
Here will be out of the
super
control for the
surprising
first
in
time.
these
So the player-
commentaries so far.
So this is the first time the player will be able to use his power when he wants. He can do before, but there is no so many interaction and puzzles. Here there is we really wanted to have a lot of different things to do. Talk with people.
Honestly,
use the
I guess
power,
there's
just
two games here.
some
There's
fun
the
stuff.
collectible
But
manipulating
we
time
use
to get
this kind of
photos,
environment for
which
the
honestly,
players
if
who like
that
to
was
take
the
their
whole
time
game and
just
there
to
was
talk
no
to
real
characters, to
story
look
other
around
than
it,
that,
it really
it's
gives a
just
sense
like
of
you're
presence,
gonna go
life
through a
to the
week
world.
of a
The
teenage
important aspect of the game
girl's
is really to
life
give
and you're gonna
some
try to find all
rewards to
these
the player who wants to do
photos
that
and you're
want to
gonna
take his
just
time.
deal
So
with
this
normal
kind of sequences, for example, we
story.
give
That would be
what
be
we call
kinda
rewards,
cool.
but in fact it's just new element
But
of the game. For example, here you will have new layer of music. You can
almost
do
like
some
a
new
hidden
layer of music.
object
You will have
game,
all
but
those
done
camera
in
shots
a
that you
much
can't have
better
inside,
system,
the
more
classic
intrigue,
walkthrough and
more
classic
tricky
gameplay in third person.
puzzles.
So this kind of beautiful shots you have
But
only because you
then
have
again,
chosen
for
to take your
considering
time to
how
sit on
long
fountain.
the
So
main
music, the
story
shot, and of course the voiceover
of
Max
Life is
also
Strange
at the beginning.
is,
We hear what Max
I
is
would
thinking
also, on the other
this
hand,
year. So
say
this kind of
take
rewards
out all the
will
collectible
push,
photo shots.
we think the player to
they're
do that again and again. So this
only
is
making the
really something
game
we wanted to
longer
have.
and,
In this game,
and
it's
wasting the
always
player's
feeling a bit
time.
like what Max is feeling, and it was we really wanted to focus on those moments. It was really capturing the moment when you can really take your time to reflect on yourself, and that's what Max is doing in those scenes.
And then
That's
the
something
sit-down
that not a
elements
lot of
too.
games are doing to let the player
Yeah,
take his time,
that
because in
those
a lot of games it's
introspective
just like,
sections,
you need to go forward, you need to go to
again,
this
just
checkpoint, you need to
add
do this and
to
this.
the time.
Since the beginning, we wanted the rewind to be
But what?
a tool that
But
player can
the
use
number
when
of
he
people and the number
where
of
he wants.
conversations is the
It
real
can be,
problem.
scripted.
you could have the
Well,
photos,
when
you can have the
sequence, for
sit-down
example,
sections.
on a
It's
technical point of view, you have
the
to
fact
record
that
all
there's
the different things
no
that
less
happens in
than
the scene.
6 people
Since you can rewind
on
time,
this
you can
in this
basically be at
area.
any part of the scene at any moment you like. Designing puzzles with the rewind was very, very hard. When you think it's done, you think you've seen everything about it, you think the situation is in place and it's going to be working well. There's always this tiny little
Remember, I
thing that's
glitched
fucking it up.
right into the fountain and was able to walk into the
when you
into the
rewind,
fountain
you're not sure that you
in
will
that
be
scene
able to restore the particle system in the
without
same
even
state.
trying.
Do not forget I need those papers before tonight. Like now. Thanks, Sherry.
And this is the dormitories. This is also something that was interesting for us is
See,
to talk about dorm
the
life.
fact that
We
you
wanted to
see
use this
Victoria
setting because we can really talk
getting
about
someone else to do her
social issues
homework
like
makes
the
me
girls
wonder
have
if
their
she's even
room,
good
do
as a
you really like the
photographer,
people who
or
really
whether
like
she
to
has
how
somebody
the
else do that
relationships are
for her
working
too.
inside the dormitories. Like right now, it's interesting is you have different music that can come from the different rooms. It's a really interesting setting to set up a lot of characters.
I didn't even notice that.
Here the idea is really to, again,
It didn't
have
even
this,
occur to me that there was different
believable
music from
universe of the
different rooms.
students. We have to focus on what we want to tell and what we want to develop.
In each episode, Alisa is getting hit or in danger by something, and you can decide or not to use the rewind power to warn her and to actually to get her out of trouble.
And again, I think it's links to also the Kate story and this kind of stuff. It's not just here to have fun. It's also to talk about those difficulties you can have.
They could have made this a college
someone like
instead of a
Alisa
high
and,
school.
having this kind of problems.
Not very much would have
Always a way to
changed.
find the
It would have made me
detail and
feel
little element that
a
will,
little bit better if you told me
bring
these
more
were
to the character
19, 20, 21-year-olds, even giving them a couple years.
So this is the same actress as Chloe.
Like
The
her
two main
story in
actresses who are
particular,
playing Max
where
and Chloe,
she gets pregnant
did
and has an
also,
abortion.
The other students, and so you can.
At
there is
18
some of
years
Chloe
or
inside
younger,
each one of them.
pretty
You
bad.
see Max and Chloe
At
here,
19,
the
20,
body animation,
still pretty
we've done
bad, but not
motion
quite as
capture
bad.
on this project. We've done a lot of shooting, motion capture with.
It would also make more
French companies.
sense
Uh,
in several scenes if
the
they
two
were
main,
older.
so Max and Chloe, like for the voice actor, in fact, they are always played by the same actress, Serena and Gabrielle. So all the body language and the body animation you will see in the game are done by them. And so
And see,
in each
that's
scene we
part of the
will-
reason why
we
the
discuss about the scene with them,
voice
and they add
actors
some-
are striking
both
is
of them,
because
given
they
some
go
specific
to a
character,
job
even
and
for
they're
Max,
told they're going to do
Serena
voice
was
acting,
a bit
and they
shy
say,
at the
no,
beginning
we're
of
going to
the
actually
project,
do
and at
voice
the end of
acting
the
and
next
facial
work.
capture or voice acting
She was
and
different,
motion
we can see the
capture.
evolution of Max
And
inside
often they'll
her
tell,
acting, so
there have been occasions where the motion capture involves doing very dangerous stunts without safety people doing the inspections and being there to observe it. So if you're a voice actor who is planning on just talking into a microphone and they say put on this green suit so we can do motion capture and jump from this rickety platform we just built so we can get the motion of you jumping, you've kind of been bait and switched as far as that job. And so that's one of the major things SAG AFTRA just want. Another thing they want is what seems like a really really low amount of bonus pay if the games sell well, something akin to if they sell $2 million worth of sales in the video game, they get one extra day of pay for voice acting. So that doesn't seem like a lot.
Something we really wanted
really.
to have with Max From is also to have a great contrast between Max.
Oh yeah,
and
the
Chloe.
clothes.
So it was really important to have those two characters. Max and Chloe are really different. They are quite opposite at the beginning.
Yeah, I
of the
figured they
story.
would have done
So
more
we
with the
wanted that
clothes, but they
our
didn't.
personality
And then the
and
bunny
also
too.
our universe,
We saw that
roles
bunny in
reflect
one
that.
scene, and then it never
we
came back.
took for Max is a sort of softer colors. We have the pink in. I think our bed cover is really soft. You have the a small cushion.
I would have
to,
taken a lot of the
sit
subtlety
there.
that they've
We've got a lot of
done
different
trying to
environments in the game,
establish
but, we
the
wanted really
difference
to
between
be able
Chloe
to
and Max that
revisit the environments
that
and to
kind
have,
of I didn't
other
even
scenes
notice or
taking
pay
place
any
in the same
attention to.
environments, but
I
telling
would have
different
tried
stories
to
and,
subtly
telling
add some
different
hints
sequences. So,
and
for
into
example, in this
Jefferson
room,
being the bad guy and
when you
throw
go
some
back,
clues out there
here
so
in the
that
house
people
in
would
the alternate reality,
have
you will find
an unconscious
empty,
feeling of
room
distrust with him as they go
empty
further
Chloe
and further
room,
in the
and,
game,
you have been
instead of
here so
him
many times
being
before,
just
the
a surprise bad
Chloe,
guy
the
at the
son
end of
Chloe,
episode 4.
listening to music.
Mm.
Going back here, without anything, you will directly see what you've lost and what this another reality means for Chloe and for you.
Max, try to find the light for the pool. I want to see the sharks.
Otters don't like sharks. They bite.
So do I. Hit that
We've
light.
done the same with the swimming pool, for example. We've got a great scene in the swimming pool between Max and Chloe when they are alone during the night, and after you got this huge vortex party, which is a really different.
Yeah, but the
atmosphere, so
scene in the
this is
swimming
kind of
pool happens in episode 3. The vortex party happens at
But it's still in the
episode
same
4.
space, and with a lot of similarities. So it's really
At the end of episode
important
4.
to show- It was important for us to
It's
show the changes that
4 or
Max can
5
make
hours
with
potentially
the and the changes
difference.
to the character and to the world.
Maybe that's a little high. So how in the world you would know the difference? So I think capturing the moment is the one we just did. So we've got social issues. 3
Stop
more.
treating me and my mom like we're your family platoon.
Hey, leave Joyce out of this.
I wish you'd leave Joyce, like now.
This scene is
Seeing,
just
this
out
kind
of place.
Family violence, and it's something you can have encounter as a player. I think we all know some people who got some difficulties, and you can have by yourself also. Here, the choice you're going to take will have consequences on the relation between Max and Chloe, but also
this part in particular
his father.
couldn't have ever really mattered as a choice.
Hey, you okay?
The only way it would have
Welcome to the
mattered
real
is
step
if
douches of Arcadia Bay.
it turned out that
sorry.
that the story was
For
gonna
what? He would have been a bigger dick if he caught you in here.
David could seem very
end up with David
archetypal
Madsen and Joyce divorcing, or David Madsen going to
episode
jail
after episode, you can see that
for
maybe
slapping
he's-
his daughter,
he's
which he
very,
almost certainly
he's got
wouldn't
his own reason to
Oh,
be
his
like
own
this.
in the
reasons,
United
and I
States.
think not at any moment
You have
we
to
are justifying
you have
the
to
fact that
do some pretty
it's
consistent
free
or some
the-
pretty
the
horrible
reality
things
is,
before the police
but
really
just
take
showing
interest.
a perspective that not everything is black or white. So we did a lot of research to be sure that we were dealing with those themes in a good way. Too much gamifying this, we could really maybe hurt some people. And if we are talking about issues those people have had, and
They're talking
not
about
making
too
it
many
right, it would
issues,
be worse,
and
it couldn't be the
they're
opposite
not
of what we wanted
focusing
to
on
do
it
first.
one or
So
two.
with Kate characters that
If they just
you have
focused
met,
on the bullying on
in
Kate.
the first episode, but not so much.
And
the episode 2 is really focused on Kate and Kate's
and
story and
gotten rid
Kate's
of several
difficulties.
other issues, it would have been better.
So,
but this scene is a good way again to how we try to.
I want to point out
defend
for a
the story
moment here
about
that
Kate, but also
two of the
show more
scenes
the
that
other
they've
side
said
of
that they're
Victoria
really
and
good
Victoria. So we
are the scenes
continuing
of the
first show about
18-year-old
Victoria
girls
is the
in their
one
underwear
which
in the
is,
swimming pool, and the
really a
scene
mean
with
person,
the
that she was,
18-year-old
she
girl
was
in the shower.
Kate, because she makes fun of her. And so this kind
I
of
think
scene, yeah,
the
is a-
the
we are
creators
really
of this
trying to
game
advance
should
the
have a
story,
good
bring
long
out
think
more of the characters
and
great cameras.
see what's going on in their
Max thought she
subconscious.
was a badass taking that picture.
we wanted really to talk about all the cyberbullying, the fact that it's quite difficult for a teenager nowadays to be connected as everyone is.
I
now.
get
I think
kind of the
everyone
feeling.
who's got
I could be
a
totally
phone,
wrong about this,
is connected
but I get the
always,
feeling that their only knowledge of cyberbullying and bullying, as it is today, is
on the other hand,
through
you've got this
sensational
dark
news
aspect
stories,
of internet, which could be
and
really difficult to live.
they're
I think
trying to
a
be
lot of,
helpful,
player could
but
recognize some
they're
of
just
them
not
inside,
qualified or experienced
inside
to be
Kate, and
helpful.
we received a
Kind
lot
of like
Twitter from
if you were talking to a
some players who say
psychologist
that
and that psychologist is like a 20-year-old who just graduated from college, and you're talking to them about problems that a 50 or 60-year-old would have. They just don't have the experience. They don't have any way to relate, and so they can pretend and try to be helpful. I just don't think they should have brought it up at all. I'm a big fan, I suppose, of people not bringing up topics when they're not expertise on it or knowledgeable about it at all, even if they're trying to be helpful.
So when you arrive on the roof, you are really by yourself. You have to talk Kate out of jumping. And,
this was a good scene. I'll leave that.
Second part of what we wanted
the freezing time element, though, never gets used again.
If you care to the people you like, you can help them.
This would have been a good way to end episode 3.
To show
so maybe if you could have taken
that she's a friend, and to really take out of
if you had taken
jumping. I think that's something that was
a lot of the story that had happened after episode 3 and put it before.
Kate was written as a again
this might have worked better.
She's a bit religious. She's for abstinence. She has this basically pro-life ideas. So maybe some of the players could think that she's boring character, but the way we evolved her and Rydo in the other episode, we really wanted to show that even
I never caught that she was pro-life or abstinence only. Kate, I guess Kate really, put out some flyers that they were in each person pushing that. What was that? They did it like some kind of visual effect on the guy and his face went green. In the video,
this kind of scene, we still have to have rules for how the things, even if it needs.
See, I imagine if the security cameras were up, he would have just gotten footage of Kate jumping.
Scene with the scripting and a way to make it work. So it was really hard to find the good balance to make it feel the more transparent as possible for the player, and just find a good way to have.
And they never really recaptured this element. The idea of you really were supposed to pay attention to the characters and be able to answer these the conversation tricks and talk her off the roof. There's a mature point-and-click adventure game called The Cat Lady that has a scene very similar to this, where a girl is threatening to jump off the roof, and you have to answer questions and be correct and tell them, talk them down. And I think The Cat Lady does it a lot better.
To talk about this theme of euthanasia,
because you don't see it coming. I saw the possibility that Kate was going to try to kill herself because she was being bullied so much. I would probably have toned down the amount of bullying just to make it subtle, and then by the end of the week, by Friday, I would have had Kate say, try to jump off the roof, but have her just be bullied once per day by somebody. Not even the same person, just one person bullied her once. And that would be more than enough for me. Instead, it was very much a case of Kate being bullied almost constantly until she tries to jump.
Of course, it's great, and I'm accepting. And a lot of others were hesitating for.
I didn't mind the assisted suicide element here, but it really didn't play any part in the game. It should have been cut. It should have been saved for season 2. They give me the feeling that they made this game throwing in everything but the kitchen sink, and everything including the kitchen sink. And they could have done some editing. They could have said, "This is a great idea, but it's not a great idea for this story. So let's save it and use it for the sequel or the prequel." They've used so many social issues in this game, it's going to be really hard not to repeat yourself in a season 2, if they're still making a season 2 and a prequel. There's a very high likelihood that
some of the, like the no weapons,
the prequel is just going to feel like more of the same.
In some high school in, it wasn't in Oregon, but it was near Washington, so it's still in the Pacific Northwest, near Seattle. And we took some of those,
Seattle, Washington school,
some of those posters,
not a small town Oregon school. That's a pretty big difference.
We did a lot of research, finding real maps of real buildings and trying to be quite precise with the scale.
That's a pretty basic design of a school
because we really wanted
map.
Everything to feel genuine.
Not that difficult.
You know, sometimes you can go really wrong in a game if you just start to forget about the scale and the detail. So we really wanted to have things right. Like
I suppose they did do a good job on keeping everything mostly in scale. I noticed that a lot in games they get things out of scale.
Already a lot of Halloween decorations and stuff like that. We wanted to have the game at the anchor in reality, but also we
Daniel,
a lot of references.
Daniel literally had no point to be in the story at all, did he?
Movies. And
well, those two people.
In Life is Strange, the setting
no point to being
really
in the game.
To have a lot of those Easter eggs that
or all the cars in the parking lot.
And
this parking lot or the school parking lot.
Into a pop culture reality. So there is a lot of stuff that is scattered around the game. If you look at every license plate in the game, you'll see that the letters they are meaning some. In episode 1 is titles of TV shows that somehow we like, that were somehow inspiration in
Quantum
some
Leap
part for the game.
Yeah, they didn't need to do that.
In the dormitories,
it's one thing to have one Easter egg. It's another thing to have every single things.
On the slate.
It's the number of the room in Shining.
Yes, and so it shows that we love us as developers of the movie, but also that the
way too many references that wouldn't be made by 18-year-olds.
Making jokes about it.
We knew that we had to hire an American scriptwriter. We sent some tests to a few writers that were recommended, and we knew. And Christian Divine, we had a Skype with Christian.
Maybe I can blame a lot of the bad story on him.
We knew that it was going to be him. I had this kind of vision of him in the office.
2 minutes.
Working with
2-minute interview.
We've chosen him. He was
maybe they should have
at 100% and even
done a 10-minute interview
with us.
instead.
He completely understood what we want to do with the characters and with the story and with the different themes we wanted to talk about. During the motion capture session, we asked the actor.
It seems really weird to have your writer out of your office, out of your country. He's an American writer. They're a Canadian video game company.
But you can't do that.
And you have to Skype with them
in fact, as
just to
friends,
communicate.
Thinking that, yeah, it's cool. They are going to kiss themselves. Warren
wanted
to kiss Max,
to kiss Max on the cheek.
We've never done that, so we changed after a discussion with the writer and a lot of friends. We said, okay, yeah, we should switch to a hug. So we changed the animation to have just Warren try to hug Max and not kiss her.
Oh, yeah, that's a very French thing, I suppose.
So we have to be very
French-Canadian.
Really good
because in France you can.
Yeah, in
say
France,
hello by kissing a girl like this,
by
but
just having a peek on the cheek, and not in the US. And this is the kind of stuff where having an American writer was really needed.
It was needed more.
Like on this parking at the beginning, we had the parking spots which were really small, and Christian said to us that this is not American parking spots. In the US, you have large parking spots because we have big cars, so we changed that. And we did that for various things, like sometimes a sign were not at the right position, or something that was not perfectly true to reality.
So, Chloe's house. This is
okay, the
very,
Bluebird.
very first
Man,
thing
every
for the
time
game.
I see an old element,
really
I realize it's just this dangling thread
we have modified
that
a lot
never
to
gets
create,
wrapped up or mattered.
This is also the scene with which we
the Bluebird.
We sold the game to Square Enix. That's the scene we showed to publisher.
The first time I tried the game, it was the Chloe's room, a really early prototype.
So they were already
it felt fantastic to play.
far into development or finished with development before even Square Enix as a publisher was involved.
Even though
wow, look at that prototype.
Final, it was really good to play.
And we decided to use this scene because every mechanism is here, but there's also a scene that shows
her hair's purple
really
in this
what
version.
Life is Strange is, because it's a story about those two girls trying to reconnect.
But that
We had the two
artistic
main
style
characters. We had
was
strong
gonna be
strong
that way
issues
from the
with what
beginning,
happened
you
with
can
David
see.
later. So we have the environmental storytelling when you're visiting a different part of the house. We have Zen sequence. It had the feeling that we really wanted to push for the game.
Oh, they were calling them Zen sequences.
Nostalgic feeling. I think that this scene is
when you sit
really
down
really
and
good
have
one to show
introspective
that in
moments.
episode 1.
At the beginning, it wasn't exactly that.
I think
like
they
that,
made Max a
but
little too
different
plain.
outcomes. And so
It
the
would have been
scene
helpful
which
if
is
Chloe
that is
forced
in
her
the
to
game
dye her
now
hair
is really different from
early
the
on in the
very first
game.
prototype. At the very beginning, it was only the arguing with David we have done in motion capture, and I've played with Jean-Luc. So Jean-Luc,
you were doing Chloe.
Yeah, I was playing Chloe, and Jean-Luc was playing. No, I was playing David. And Jean-Luc is a great writer who has written the original story. So we have played all together because we didn't want to.
Well, here's another reason why the voice actor might not be coming back is if they're using non-union workers to do union jobs like motion capture and voice acting, then that SAG-AFTRA is not going to be happy about that. That's not how unions work.
And I think Max
they don't like scabs, as they call them, to work without paying the union dues and following the union rules.
Undrawn smoke a little. But it's really beautiful,
and so if the co-game developers are doing mocap, they're taking jobs away from the union employees.
And we tried to be as close as possible of the concept arts, like.
See, that's one of the weird things here. Well, I keep getting back to the SAG-AFTRA strike, which is the more interesting thing to me than this game.
And the concept artists, they did a really good job on that, because
SAG-AFTRA has been, while they're still on strike, doing a very weird thing where they'll negotiate per contract deals with game companies. So if a game company really does want to work with that voice actor again, even though they're on strike, and it would normally be completely unacceptable for a union worker to work when they're on strike, they've been negotiating deals and saying, okay, for this one game, this one contract, we will work under these conditions, even though we're still on strike,
like for example,
which is odd. It's a very odd way to do a strike.
Chloe's parents are, so what kind of house they can afford. So these get painted. In concept art, we do like every room.
You can see the concept art is that watercolor art too, so they just probably had their concept artists draw all the paintings and things.
Poster of bands, which you like, you have to feel like who they are, just by looking.
This commentary is longer than the others. Well, just as I said that, and that was getting things right. And so the last thing we have is voices for Arcadia Bay. Not really anything interesting here, but it's a good reminder of what this game was since it was so long.
Characters in a way that would really appeal to the player. So
and they should have done something with Rachel Amber.
If you wanted this final choice to work, we really needed the player to grow to love Chloe, to really get attached to Chloe.
Yep.
So
and they failed to do that to me. I did not really care about Chloe at the end.
To make that happen.
Of course, the story was written as a whole since the beginning, so we couldn't change massive steps. But small details could be added, a line of dialogue for a character, or episode 3 when you visit Kate in the hospital, and it wasn't supposed to be here, but we've seen how people loved Kate. we realized how much it was important to have a scene like this one.
It's a way of finding
So,
the voice of the character. So sometimes
that
you just
that
need
explains
to think
a
about
little
expressions
there.
of
It wasn't originally
one
a
character would use
scene.
and the other won't
I
use
still
it.
have no idea
That's-
what
that's
that
how
scene would be like,
you
though,
grow
if
to like
Kate
those
had
characters.
killed
Because
herself.
when
I
in
guess
episode
she
3 or
probably
4,
doesn't die.
Chloe at the moment use
Well,
the
no,
Hela.
it's
The
every
players
indication
were
is she
waiting sometimes
does.
for it, and they recognize that okay, it's Chloe because she's using that.
So we're working with Blind Light in Los Angeles, and they sent us a lot of different voices to listen to them, and we have to decide. So we decided with Michel, Sebastian, and the producer, and Square, which one we want. So it was quite difficult. For example, for Max, we've got like 40, I think.
I guess we got 40
40 voices.
different castings.
For Chloe, it was 30, I think, something like that.
Most of the time, we were quite sure and quite agreeing on the actor. It was really hard for Max because it's always on our mind, like, are we really sure that we are doing the good choice? Because it's so
I like him to
important.
justify
I don't know
Alyssa's
the
voice
number actually
actors.
in the game, but it's almost, I think that there is almost 14,000 lines in the game, and I think that more than 10,000 are from Max.
I've never played a character that I related to so much. I have a lot of the same issues that she does with her confidence.
Wow.
And so getting to play
Her voice sounds like she's
so similar to me
burnt it
is
out
really
through
an extraordinary
overuse.
experience. I really feel like I'm growing with her.
We'll help you. Just let me go and...
The fun story is for Jefferson. The guy we choose is Derek Phillips, and after we choose him, I discovered that he was Derek Phillips, and he's actually playing one of the main recurring character in the show Friday Night Lights, which is one of my favorite TV shows.
Well, this has just been really fun for me, especially coming from the standpoint where, you know, when I auditioned for the role, I wasn't sure if Jefferson was going to be the bad guy in this. So, you know, you just kind of came in and we would do our voiceover.
Well, I'm
sessions.
surprised he even had a
He's
hint.
cool teacher. So it was kind of neat to find out about this twist. I mean, I'd kind of heard that might happen, but I didn't know for sure if it would. So it was really, really fun to play with that.
So we are really
I
proud
probably,
to have Anna
and it probably would have been a
actually,
limitation of
for
my
Max and Chloe,
my own
all
ability
the voice talents
to
were
direct or
really
write,
involved.
but I would
We've
have
given
probably
something
told him
unique to
play it
these characters, and
nefariously,
that's
play it
why
like the bad
it
guy
works
a
also
little
with-
bit,
because
so
there is a
we could
part of their
get
soul
that
inside their
subconscious
character.
feeling
For
that
Hannah,
he's
for
the
Max,
bad guy.
one of the hardest parts is that there is so many lines of inner voices. So it was really important for Hannah to give something great for those, and I think it was quite the case. And for Ashley, one of the really hard parts is that there is and for Hannah too, there is a lot of really emotional scenes.
I really wanted to sell the moments, and I was putting, you know, pressure on myself
This
to
is an
make,
interesting
to make, you know, certain
hairstyle
moments, like
she
with
has.
Rachel, lots of the moments that happen in episode 4, I really wanted them to feel real.
And I'm constantly on this roller coaster. So I had to figure out how to harness those feelings so that I could use them to illustrate what Max is going through.
I remember during the voice recording session, for example, for the scene where they are discovering Rachel's body, it was really hard, even just for myself to listen to the scene, and they told me
Yeah,
that,
this should have been a
they
hugely
were-
emotional
both of
scene
them
for
were
me.
really crying
Didn't care.
when they were recording this scene.
Didn't care at all.
Already how we wanted to end each episode, but after
And it
we take
didn't
a
help
lot of time
anymore
to
that
discuss about how
there was only a couple
we
scenes
think
after
about
that point that we
the
saw
editing,
Chloe get shot, and
the framing.
didn't really
and
care
the layout
then.
of each
Well, I
scene.
guess she
The
got shot
endings
the
of
second time.
Each episode, so that was something really important, of course, because it's an episodic game, so the ending is crucial. If we want, of course, the player to enjoy the episode and to want to come back for the next episode. So I think we looked a lot at
Yeah, if I was
also what
playing
can be
this
done in
episodically
TV
and I had to
series,
wait,
because with
I
the
probably
format, we
would
are
have forgotten about it
kind of the same,
somewhere
same
after
way.
episode
At the end of
2.
an episode, you want either to bring back
maybe
some element
episode
of the
3.
story, so in order to
I would
hook
have
the
just
player,
moved on to
or
the next
you can
game.
use a cliffhanger, and I think that we did.
And I
both
don't
of
think
that
this
depending
game
on the
helps
episodes and what was
or
and the
works
voice of
better being
Here's
yeah,
episode
released
1
in
and
small
episode 2 endings
chunks.
are
Like if you just played
It's the
episode
same,
1,
but
then
it's, the
took a
idea
month
behind
and then
was
played
really
episode
to
2, and you
show
spent that month thinking about the
all
events of
characters
episode
of
1,
the games, all the main characters,
I think you
and
would have
showing
just
that
been
there is
confused and
maybe
forgotten
something
what
more
had
going on.
happened.
In
I don't
episode
think
1, for
it
example,
would
we
have
even show some
led
characters
to
who
a deeper
haven't,
understanding of the
met
game.
already
Joyce
in episode
elements.
1, Joyce and Frank,
yeah.
and you will find them back here at the end of episode 2 in small scenes. And we really wanted those in episode 1 and 2, those ends to be like a wide description of all the characters and all what's
Yeah,
going on,
the
and
end of
also
episode 1
showing
is the snow.
other
The
aspects
end
of
of
each
episode
character,
2
for
is the
example,
eclipse.
seeing David on the shoot.
It's
with, the
frankly
head of the
exactly
sugar
the same
Joyce,
thing.
Seeing
Twice.
Victoria and Nathan
That's an ending.
in Victoria's room, seeing the principal and Jefferson arguing. This is kind of small hints that maybe will push the player to want to see more.
Because this is basically the only moments where we are seeing those characters when Max is not seeing them.
See, we don't
so we
even
can just bring a bit more. We
know what they
are
were
not saying too
arguing
much,
about.
we are just bringing a bit more on those characters, a bit of sort of mystery, and this goes with the idea that everybody might be hiding something or might be a bit different. Like Victoria here we can see her crying when clearly this was not the way her character would behave before. And having Nathan going into her room, we don't know what's happening between the two of them, but it's still bringing a bit of mystery and interest for the characters, for the player. When we worked on the cliffhangers for episodes 3 and 4, of course our goal was still to have a twist. We were really trying to go on with what was important for the story and not just having the shock factor.
Maybe just want to thank you for all the gifts, all the support we have from you.
Yes.
And thank you very much to be so active and so passionate about the game, and we're really happy to see that those characters and this story and those themes means something also for you. This is why we are doing games, so we're really happy, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really think that you are one of the best community we've seen for games.
I'm going to cry, Michel.
Yeah, and this community is really nice.
I would think this.
Sometimes
it would be very arguable to say that this game got more coverage and more support because it was covering bullying, because it had a female protagonist, because it was pro-lesbianism somewhat. Like, let's see, can we skip that? No, we can just hit a button and skip it. Well, that's the director's commentary. Still wouldn't get a Square Enix account. That would be ridiculous. There's, I guess, really nothing left. Season 2 may at some point come out, but the prequel should be out now. I really talked over the director's commentary more than anything, just talking about the game. Again, thinking about it. We can quickly flip through all of our decisions. In the end, I don't particularly feel like I made any decision I really regret. I don't hate this game. I don't think I'm not to the point where I say it was a waste of time or anything, but also it just never had me. It never grabbed my attention. So if I was just playing this game for myself, I probably would have bailed at episode 3. This whole thing needs a rewrite. I'd love to see more people compete against Telltale Games. I'd love to see a story like this try to be told and be better. But you've got to convince me to be interested in it. So if you're going to do an 18-year-old girl, it needs to be an actual 18-year-old girl that feels like an 18-year-old girl but is also interesting, not the culmination of two mid-30s Canadians that don't know what they're writing about. In my opinion, they just didn't write to their strengths. They didn't write what they knew. they should have written this from the perspective of someone like David Madsen. That would have been a better character for them to write. That's it for this series. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm pretty much mad on it. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. This game is way too crashy though. Way too crashy. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, or Battle.net, all of those links are down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.